Hello there. The following interview was made possible in Kyiv, Ukraine. I had the chance to interview Tamara, which found her way to the programmer world. How she got there and what her thoughts are, we will experience in this video. Have fun.
Okay. Perfect.
So I graduated from linguistics and literature. I've been working for a while in this sphere, and it was very hard to find a decent job. So, and at some point of my life, it's around 2 years ago, I decided to shift my career and began learning coding. I decided to start with front end because I think it was easy start. Yes, and for a while I learned it myself, training my skills on Lit code, code words, and so on. I learned markup on how it's called, Free Code Camp. Yes, then I started attending a local academy.
What is the name of the local academy?
Mate Academy. Yes, it's a Ukrainian academy that's they are providing education free of charge, but then you are obliged to pay like a credit system. You're obliged to pay some percent of your salary for about 2 years. So they are very interested in your employment and in your rise. That's I appreciate about that academy. Not so much knowledges that they provide, but this career help. Yes, and since March, I'm working at one local very large outstaff company. It's called Star Global, and if I'm not mistaken, they are located in Germany, in something a head office. Yes, but this is the company that's located in Ukraine, in Poland, and so on, in Vietnam, and they've got different companies around the world. And outstaffing people, for example, as me. Yes, some that. What else? Often people ask me why did I decide to shift my career and
yes,
from
that is a very interesting
question.
Yes,
to more technological. Yeah, as I already said, I graduated from the university where my major was linguistics. And I actually found
one could actually think that coding being also written language, that linguistics
absolutely.
Can kind of help.
Yes.
I guess.
And even there is a part of linguistics. It's called formal linguistics or something like that.
Yeah.
And they are studying artificial languages. So and there is very lots of common in programming languages and natural languages.
True.
And it's actually very interesting point of perspective on coding, on computer sciences, and
so actually, your studies, even not being purely computer science, you still had some part of computer science in there.
Yes. Yeah. I was very good at structural linguistics.
Nice.
Yes, that's why I enjoy this strict rules, some kind of even of how it's, I don't know, grammar, punctuation. It's all any programming languages is all about it, and also the composition, the whole structure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why actually, you already asked me this question regarding if I have if I perceive programming as artistic, a
creative art form.
Yes.
In some ways. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I perceive it some way creative thing, and it reminds me of languages, of writing, whole structure, compositions, these interesting things, and also it reminds me of Lego.
What is that?
Lego.
Lego.
Yes, obviously.
Well, yeah, yeah.
I think it's a very common
building blocks of code you put
yes.
together. Yeah, pretty much. This would be the object-oriented approach. You always have those Lego building blocks. Well, cool. This is nice. How long did you study code In which, how long was the time frame until you got your first job in a company? Roughly said.
If speaking of productive time,
Yes.
I spent around maybe 6 months learning JavaScript.
Was this your first language, JavaScript?
Yes.
Cool. That is quite fast after 6 months, and you then could already...
I talked about productive time, and talking of unproductive time, I spent like a year or more.
Still fast.
Yeah, because I had like also a job, work to do, and I wasn't able to to invest all my time, all my efforts just to into learning. Yes.
But even doing that on the side, it was enough, and you succeeded. Actually, this is amazing.
Yes, I am very hardworking.
You gotta be hardworking.
Sometimes too much, and yes. And speaking also about inspiring things, like frankly speaking, I was also inspired by the industry, because I'm pretty sure that IT industry, they have a very good influence on labor relationships in the society, and I'm very concerned about it. Yes, and I appreciate them for that. And again, speaking about my first experience when I was working at cultural institutions, it seemed that they are more concerned about social improvements and so on, but they had very violating working conditions. And I think that they are, and I was disappointed in this sphere, and I thought that it was very counterproductive. While IT sphere, being commercials industries, still they have very respectful attitude to their employers. Yes,
employees.
Employees, and I am pretty sure that they giving a very good trend. Regarding reforming of labor relationships and
that is interesting.
Rights and freedoms of working people.
So it's interesting how you said it. It's like you would assume that cultural studies, being cultural studies, they would be the ones who want to make the change.
Yes.
But you yourself actually see the change coming from the more technical industry.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Practically, yes. They are just promoting some ideas, but they are not implying them in fact. And
no application, I see.
Yes.
Implementation.
And I, as I already said, working in several cultural institutions, non-commercial institutions, I constantly encountered violating working conditions and my rights, my labor, like as a working person, and so on. So yes, I decided to go and. Yeah, that's why I'm glad that IT industry is rapidly developing, and they always rising the stakes, and so these cultural institutions, they have to to suit all these trends that are promoted by IT sphere.
Interesting view. I haven't thought about it like that actually. Interesting. How is it? I mean, we're like in Kyiv right now. How I've seen just from myself speaking that the IT scene in Kyiv has been quite rising in the recent years. If you, from yourself, as a Kyivan citizen, look at the whole IT industry from your own eyes, what do you think changed in the last years, and how do you think it will look like in the future?
Well, I think that the IT sphere in Ukraine is rising because actually there is very cheap work. Most of companies here is outstaff companies or outsourced companies, and so on, and we are receiving payments in dollars USD. So it's not just it's not product companies as much as outstaff or
so mostly you would say most of it is really outsourcing companies.
Yes. Even if there is a product companies in Ukraine appears. For example, one of the project is called Allset. It's quite rising IT company, and they are located. It's a Ukrainian product company but their head office relocated to San Francisco, and they are still they are calling themselves a product company, but I consider that what they are doing is outsourcing. It's still outsourcing.
The main business being services of coders for some projects.
It's manufactured here and sold on the West.
I see. Well, yeah, this is definitely a big thing. I mean, even at the companies I've worked at, they, like big companies, they always have multiple locations, you know, like America, I don't know, Europe, Germany, Central
Head
Europe.
office, while like the large like the office where people are working is usually Ukraine, Poland, Vietnam,
India.
India,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, big companies always do that because they want to, you know, they want to kind of economically, from their perspective,
Yes.
spend the most efficient money, kind of. But, you know, funnily speaking, I've heard this also many times. You've got sometimes the situation where you've got like a guy in India working, and then the people in Central Europe, for example, see he's a very talented coder, and it can happen that they just say, "Listen, we want you to relocate, you know, to get the talent."
Sometimes it happens, but I think that after COVID situation, and also I read some articles regarding that lots of companies understood that there is no like difference between remote that they can freely take in office people from, for example, very remote countries.
Yeah.
And yes, among Ukrainians, among Russian people, even in Russian, it's harder because they have even blocked LinkedIn.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
There is special policy that prevent people finding a job outside of Russia. But
they want to prevent the brain drain.
Yes, they even call this program like brain drain. And for example, LinkedIn is blocked in Russia. But do
they have like a Russian variant for LinkedIn there, like a Russian LinkedIn?
It's like just a platform to share your CV, find a job, like and so on. But there are only Russian companies there and so on. So I know that now lots of Ukrainians and Belarusians, citizens of Belarus,
White Russia. White Russia. You mean?
They decided that there's no difference while being employed by local outstaff or outsourced company, or being employed by, for example, American company, like. And so on. And American companies are more welcome to these people. So, and I think that salaries will be rising.
This is actually also my high expectation, like my hope, you could say, even for cities like Kyiv. I mean, when I was here, I also saw like, of course, gentrification, lots of gentrification going on, which is not ideal because it kind of, you know, less people earn more, most of them earn kind of the same. But my hope is if like IT scene locally, like not outsourced, gets bigger, it should just generally raise the salaries and just disperse them in all the citizens. That would be at least a good outcome for the country itself, I think. Yeah,
it's pretty hard now make any predictions, especially after COVID. Like this period, it will make big change, I think, into industry.
Yeah, well, you know, it kind of already has. Everybody went remote. Everybody likes it. It changed the global mindset of what it means to work, even, right? So, yeah, I mean,
and it's an economical way of working.
Yeah,
it's also like.
Do you think? I always thought in my life that, even years back, I thought that in the future, everybody will code.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes, for example, as Markdown, I think it's a basic skill for almost any people who is related to using text reductors.
Yeah.
Or even like just messengers, because Markdown is very...
True.
I mean, this Git Markdown, but it's actually very reflective of HTML. So I'm pretty sure that obviously everybody, it's like... They won't need to like learn it themselves, but they will acquire these skills like within our online communication and so on.
True, yeah. Well, it seems like everybody will be a coder more or less in the future. Yeah. maybe even like speaking a language like we do nowadays. I mean, who knows what the future brings? People are nowadays even researching putting a chip in your brain.
Yeah.
So maybe we will have very interesting communication channels in the future in some way. But I always found it interesting just coding by itself in a more, I think, like philosophical sense. It's like you speak a language through writing it, and then you create things. It's like the spoken word creates stuff, and even this principle in the most basic sense I find very amazing. And yeah, I mean, you could basically imagine that you have unlimited creative possibilities, right? As long as you have a computer, of course. That's a prerequisite.
Yes.
True that, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember when I was studying linguistics and we were speaking about formal artificial languages, there is a very interesting conception of abstractacy, or how to say.
Did you by any chance learn also like Chomsky hierarchies? Does it ring a bell?
Chomsky?
Yeah.
Well, yes, we studied Chomsky, but unfortunately now I don't remember. I remember that he is a structural linguist.
Yes, yeah.
From the States or something like that.
Computer scientists learn this a lot.
Yeah, so you see, it's very relatable things. Yes, it's very interesting sphere of exploration. It's and definitely it's on the edge of philosophy, linguistics, theory of linguistics. Yes.
Fascinating. So you said you're doing front-end nowadays mainly?
Yes.
Well, tell me, what frameworks do you use? What frameworks do you use, for example?
I'm working with React.
React.js?
Yes.
It's quite popular. I'm not a web guy. It's quite popular, isn't it? Like React.js?
Yes, because it's it's more efficient. I think, for example, Angular is more complex. At the same time, it's more effective comparing to Vue.js.
Yeah.
And I think there is there is only 3 frameworks, so there is no big choice. So yes, React.
Okay, maybe it's good that there's no big choice. Sometimes it's good, yeah. You also said that you want to switch to full stack in the future. That's
not to switch. Currently, I'm employed as a full stack developer.
Are you already working
Yes.
at full stack? Okay.
But I'm not responsible of the things of full stack. I'm responsible mostly of front end because I'm junior. So it doesn't matter if I want, but I have to
You have to, okay.
Not to shift, but to proceed to develop further. Yes, and a little bit. I sometimes have some work with, for example, Next.js. It's almost full stack, I think. Yeah.
True. It actually is. I mean, you can always slowly go there, no problem.
Yes.
Learn step by step new skills. Of course, if you have the whole picture, if your back end and your front end, and then you can let them communicate, that's great. Then sky's the limit. You can have everything, I guess. Yeah. Awesome. Are there any general technologies right now or future technologies which you find fascinating? Like it can be anything.
Actually, this tremendous shift and the appearance of neurotechnologies, data sciences, they inspired me to become a developer as well, because I see that this industry is it's contemporary, it's interesting, it's developing, and so on. And I've been working on, by the way, on machine learning project before that.
Nice.
As a data operator, just not any coding.
That's a start.
Yes, but I actually inspired by these things.
That's cool. That's very cool to hear. Like you see sci-fi like technologies out there, and you just say, "Oh, I want to have a part of that." That's cool. That's cool.
To contribute.
Do you think in the future everybody should be a scientist?
Well, for me, scientist is a person who doesn't necessarily has hard skills, but he's exploring. No, I don't think so. Maybe I'm not have not clear understanding of what you mean by scientist. But as for me, it's an academic person.
Like in the sense of everybody should have the possibility of just doing research. He doesn't have to have an academic background, but just everybody should have the interest and the environment where he can participate in research endeavors. I'm asking that because if the academic scene by itself, if you're at the top 1% of the most written papers or whatever, it seems like just a couple of privileged people, not that many, and then it's sometimes like an enclosed ecosystem. But this is more of a like general question, maybe even a philosophical question. Should we live in a society where everybody participates in that, or maybe you think that's not possible?
So if I understood you right, so as you're talking about that, you are talking that the research sphere is like it's elitarny.
Very elitist.
Yes. Elitist. And maybe I agree with you. It's because at least because they are talking the language that is not comprehensible by the common person. So if you're talking about more democratic, like this sphere and more comprehensible languages and the way of communications, then it would be very cool if everybody could contribute this, like open source.
Open source science. That would be that. I would like that. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm pretty, yes, I agree. It reminds me of the time when like books were written only in Latin.
Oh yeah, nobody could read that.
And people couldn't read, but at some point books began being written in comprehensible languages, and the literacy of people, they increased tremendously, and people began writing and people began reading. So maybe you're right about this perspective on research sphere and science. It will be something like that.
Well, I guess we will see. I guess we will see. It just for people like me, I guess it's kind of crazy. I myself like to read about lots of stuff if I find the time, and even being in just one subject, it's hard to keep up if you want to be really up to date, I realized. And I mean, then you sometimes understand, okay, even if you're like in a very specialized field and even if you're up to date, there's like tons of people like stuff which is like 20 years ahead, let's say, right? And there's tons of people who don't even understand any basics how to comprehend that, and it feels like, wow, well, we will probably have technocracy in the future going on. Maybe, but yeah. You are standing right now. What do you want to study and learn in the future? What plans do you have?
Well, in speaking of like short-term future, I want to develop in the sphere that I'm working currently and become a really full-stack developer, software engineer. And speaking of the bigger perspective, I don't actually know for sure, but I'm very curious about new technologies, about like new researches and so on, and I'm just eager to know like the latest like achievements in the science and the research, and I'm passionate about the future that is coming. That's why actually I decided to learn like coding as well, because I'm feeling that I'm participated in these new changes.
Being part of the change.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I guess we will be all coding probably in 20 years with quantum computers. Yes. Who knows?
Absolutely.
And regarding Ukraine, how do you see like technology and the whole IT scene developing in the future? What do you think the outlook looks like?
Again, speaking of the short-term future, I think that the COVID period like predetermines lots of changes in the sphere. specifically, I think that lots of IT specialists, they will be employed not by outstaff and outsourcing companies, but by those Western companies themselves, and those companies will be welcoming for our developers as well. This will trigger the development of the IT sphere as well. I don't know, and until there is no place to sell IT products in Ukraine, I think that we will be still outstaffed, outsourced, and so on. And but it's actually hard for me to say.
Hard to see what will happen.
Yes,
yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that there will be very tremendous changes after COVID period, because, for example, even the company I'm working for now, they implementing the hybrid system of working environment. It also means that the business will require more money because they don't need to waste money on in-office employers. So I don't know. I don't know.
It's a hard question. Yes, it's a hard question.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's just hope that, how you just said, outsourcing won't be that much, and more things will come as products from Ukraine by itself. And then
I don't think that it will happen, actually.
I don't think it will happen.
Yes, because as I already said, until there is no money in Ukraine and there is no the consumers of IT products, I'm pretty sure that we will be still outstaffed and outsourced. I'm not. I don't think that the product companies will lead their business here and.
But if some knowledge and production is being made from Ukraine, then it can happen. This is maybe a prerequisite, right?
Sometimes it's happening, but after they are succeeding to some kind of success, they usually relocating to the West, for example, to the US, because there is people they are selling these products to.
Yeah. But sometimes, and a good example I think would be Unit City. Unit City I think got founded because one main foreign investor just saw the potential in Ukraine years back, and he saw that potential actually, or multiple investors, by the numbers of startups and human resources being capable of doing such work. And so he decided to actually invest into Ukraine, building this campus.
I'm not very familiar with Unit City, but as I know now, there's just a place. It's just a place for, as you already said, human resources. Ukraine is like a colony where people can mine human resources.
This may be actually correct. Yeah.
And thanks to the colonists, we've got great working conditions.
Yeah, but you still got the dependency on the colonists, as you say. I see.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And I am not sure that it will be it will change
sometimes, maybe to have a little bit of tangent here, if you look like it's Klitschko, I'm from Germany, and in Germany Klitschko back in the day was a hero. He was loved, and he could have lived and stayed in the West as long as he wants to, but at some point he just went back to his roots and said, I want to make this country better. So maybe even from the IT tech sphere, similar things can happen where people say, listen, I go back, I have the knowledge, I built something great.
At the same time,
maybe I'm just an optimist also.
Yeah. At the same time, I think that with this globalization and these more virtual working environments, I think that all countries and so on, they are more aligned to the same level. For example, I don't know. I don't know. Sorry.
That's absolutely okay. No reason to be sorry. Cool. Well, thank you very much. This was a very interesting interview to have. Actually, I got some real good insights from what's going on. So thank you a lot, and gladly again.
I hope I was useful.
More than that.
For appreciation.
No problem.